is Rick Stevens. I'm an assistant professor of journalism at Southern Methodist University in Dallas. I think that web usability is incredibly important, and it's largely ignored in our field. We pretty much give lip service to it, but there's so many bad news websites out there in terms of being able to use that information. And then getting into the content, how it's displayed across cell phones, is incredibly important. I use my cell phone every day. One of the reasons why this is so incredibly important is because as we're beginning to invest in the mobile platform like the Washington Post is doing, they're clearly recognizing that there's a significant number of us that have smaller phones. And particularly when you start looking at issues like the digital divide and inequality of resources, most Americans are not going to have smartphones. And so if we're saying that we are increasingly restricting, we're not designing content for disadvantaged people in our culture, we're cutting them out of the news cycle, and that really does hurt our democracy. For mobile users, you need to reduce the sentence length quite a bit. You need to be very succinct. In terms of the layout, you need more jump links, not fewer, because even though you lose people on jump links, you lose them more through scrolling. That's one of the things that I found that was a little bit surprising. Typically what happens is people fall off. On a given story, I'm usually willing to go 5 or 6 pages deep, unless it really grips me. Otherwise, I get the main idea, then get back to the office and check the web. Which is why it's so important, when I'm looking at a site like the New York Times, where I have to scroll so much, I just fall off. When you think about what's happening, I usually can't read more than a paragraph at a time, because I'm reading a story and then suddenly my train arrives. So I have to look up. I'm trying not to run into people. I'm trying, there's other things going on when I'm consuming news on a mobile phone. So usually about a paragraph, and then I click next, and then my eyes come up and I look around at my environment. That's actually a good rhythm for consuming content on mobile devices. And I think that's what confuses people, because on the web you want to minimize the wait time as much as possible. You want page loads to come quickly, but it's just a completely different experience. If I'm in my office in front of my computer, I can afford to be engrossed. I'm not going to run into somebody. If I'm on my mobile phone, I have to constantly divide my attention between that and whatever else I'm doing. Most frankly just haven't even thought about it. There are some that look at it and argue, well, if only 7% of Americans are doing this, it's not worth investing in. However, if 62% of Americans are doing some data, it's pretty amazing. That's an amazing statistic that flies in your face, that only 7% of them are getting news. So what are they doing? They're texting each other, they're checking email, they're going to information sites that are not news sites. We're kind of poised to repeat some of the mistakes we made in the 90s when the web emerged and journalism didn't think it needed to get on the web. We need to be on the web. We need to be on mobile phones. I think the industry is a little bit slow to change. I think we get set in our ways a little bit, and I just think they're not as aware of what's at stake here. I think 10 years from now they're going to look back and say, we really had an opportunity, we missed it.